Lecture 2, Module 1, the Define stage, Part 1. Defining the problem. In the Define stage, we'll look at 4 steps. First one is defining the problem, which is the focus of this module. Then we'll define the needs, which is looking at the voice of the customer and what the customer wants. Then we'll define the process, actually figure out what the process is. And then we'll define the project. What is it that we're going to try and do in the course of the project? In a Far Side cartoon by Gary Larson captioned, "What We Say to Dogs," a man is talking to his dog. In the call-out balloon it says, "Okay, Ginger, I've had it. You stay out of the garbage. Understand, Ginger? Stay out of the garbage or else." In the next frame, captioned, "What They Hear," in the call-out balloon it says, "Blah, blah, Ginger, blah, 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 Ginger, blah, blah, blah." Just like this dog, people tend to hear something other than what was said and to only hear things that are important to them. By the way, use of the cartoon for this course was denied by Gary Larson, so don't buy his books. People tend to hear what they want to hear. We need to get to the bottom of these batch failures. Right, you want me to lay off staff. Right, quality is the first thing to go. Right, you want me to cut overtime. Right, you're cutting my bonus. And this affects the way we approach problem solving also. We need to get to the bottom of these batch failures. Right, operations needs more training. Right, the lab needs to get better methods. Right, engineering needs to design things better. Right, QA needs to open up their specifications. The purpose of the define phase is to carefully and systematically identify appropriate solutions to Six Sigma projects and ensure that the effective solutions are selected and that company resources are not wasted. This is not an insignificant step. It is important to carefully define the problem right at the start. Many project teams have failed to achieve their goals or just wasted time and had to return to the define step because they did not clearly or accurately figure out what their problem was. Defining the problem sketches out the big picture of the project. By defining the problem, we clearly identify what the heart of the problem actually is, what the customer requirements actually are, what the processes actually are, who the stakeholders actually are, and who the process owners actually are. As the previous slides illustrated, it's common for industry workers to know the answer before they know the question. Because of this very human problem, Lean Six Sigma uses systematic methods to evaluate problems, issues, processes, or systems to arrive at unbiased conclusions and correctly identify problems and their answers. Note, the define phase was added by General Electric to Motorola's Six Sigma program, and they added the D in the domain that we know today. Motorola did not use the define phase. General Electric had to add it. Wonder why? The 7M tools are management and planning tools used to analyze complex problems. 7M tools are especially useful where there's little or no data to guide the analysis. They can be used for exploring a problem, organizing team input, and arranging team input into project plans. They can be used in R&D, clinical settings, manufacturing, and laboratory situations, anywhere in the organization. Don't listen to anyone who says you can't use these tools in a certain area. And these are the 7M tools. Affinity diagrams, tree diagrams, process decision program charts, matrix diagrams, interrelationship digraphs, prioritization matrices, activity network diagrams. Now these tools are a lot easier to understand when you see them being used. So there are links provided in the next few slides and also on the website so that you can actually watch the tool being used rather than just have me read long text descriptions to you. Affinity diagrams. Teams use the affinity diagram technique to randomly generate ideas and then organize them into similar groups, or what we call affinities, and possibly see relationships that were not previously realized. When large amounts of information about a problem must be organized, an affinity diagram is a very good choice. Or to prevent teams from defaulting to old thinking and rounding up the usual suspects, an affinity diagram can stimulate new thinking. Since the process of building an affinity diagram is team-based, it also makes it difficult for one or two people to dominate and control the discussion. Creating an affinity diagram. One by one, each team member randomly volunteers a fact or idea about the problem. The fact or idea is written on a post-it note and stuck on the wall. When team members run out of facts or ideas, the post-it notes are placed next to other post-it notes that they seem to have an affinity for. The groups of post-it notes are examined to see what relationships they have with each other. And here are a bunch of videos on the use of affinity diagramming. The very first one, time-lapse video, is probably the best one to watch. It'll show you several hours of doing the affinity diagram process condensed into a couple of minutes, and give you a very good idea of the scope and how big a problem can be that you would definitely want to use this tool for. Tree diagrams. These are used to determine all the possible connections among a collection of ideas or facts. All possible outcomes can be easily visualized, quantified, and probabilities determined. And there's a video below. Again, they're also on the website. Process decision program charts. These are used to plan for potential problems when there's a strong uncertainty that a project will be successful. This tool starts with each of this plan's elements and asks what-if questions to identify any potential issues, and then establishes some countermeasures for any problems that might occur. Matrix diagrams. These are very common tools that everyone has seen. They graphically show the relationship between 2, 3, or 4 rows and columns of information. Matrix diagrams can be used to visualize the relationships among many interacting variables. And they come in different types, such as the L diagram, T diagram, and an X diagram. And there's a video on the matrix diagrams. Interrelationship digraphs. These display all the interrelated cause and effect relationships in a complex problem, and also displays the desired outcomes. It is a pictorial tool that facilitates the problem-solving process by showing the relationship between problems and ideas in complex situations. Teams write ideas or problems in circles and place the circles next to each other. Arrows are drawn from circle to circle, indicating which idea or problem influences the others, and the size of the arrow indicates the strength, and the direction indicates the direction of the influence. And here's a two-part video on YouTube you can watch on making interrelationship digraphs. Prioritization matrices. These are used to prioritize items by assigning them different weight criteria. The prioritization matrix combines the tree and matrix diagramming techniques to do a pairwise evaluation of items. They can be used to prioritize proposed Six Sigma projects to determine the most valuable projects, or those that have the highest probability of success. And again, there's a video. Activity network diagrams. These are also known as PERT, or Program Evaluation Review Technique diagrams from project management, and is used to identify the sequence and timing of events of a project. Activity network diagrams are also used for critical path analysis to see which activities can cause a project to overrun the schedule. Activity network diagrams are also very useful when a project has multiple activities which need simultaneous management. It is used typically late in the defined process when a project has already been selected. And this is a nice video on activity network diagrams. Pareto Charts. This is a very powerful tool. It contains both bars and a line graph, simple, where individual values of items are represented in descending order by bars, and the cumulative total is represented by the line. The purpose of the Pareto chart is to highlight the most important factors among a set of factors. Often is used to show the most common sources of defects, the highest occurring type of defect, or the most frequent reasons for customer complaints. It's also known as the 80-20 rule, and the video below will show you how it's used. Now, there are two aspects of pharmaceutical manufacture that are really major drivers of the overall manufacturing performance and are really natural focal points in defining the problem. These are the cost of poor quality and the cost of conformance. These two measures should be considered in defining the problem if they're known. And if they're not known, they should be measured and then considered as part of the problem. What is cost of poor quality? Well, this is what it costs the company to create and then deal with poor quality products, like rejects that you have to destroy perhaps, rework them, scrap leftover parts that have to be dealt with, maintenance and repairs, overtime that is spent on handling all these things. Now, these are just the tip of the iceberg. There are also hidden costs, which can also be considered costs of poor quality. Hidden costs are things like failing to meet customer requirements. How many of you have been in a restaurant and got very poor service and didn't come back? That was hidden from them. Lost market share, lost production capacity, increased cycle time. It should be important to remember that the ice hidden below the surface is the ice that really sunk the Titanic. And cost of conformance. In the pharmaceutical industry, this is what it costs to meet quality or regulatory requirements. So things like master planning, SOPs and SOP training, product design validation, qualification and validation, process controls, quality audits, preventive maintenance and calibration. These are all proactive costs in comparison to the cost of poor quality, which are really reactive failure costs. these costs of conformances tend to be much less expensive than the cost of poor quality. So they should be a good investment. Unfortunately, many of these have failed to actually improve the quality of pharmaceutical products and have been nothing more than simple documentation exercises, which is unfortunate.